Hello, my name is Mr. Alois Omondi from Musakasa Technical Trading Institute. I will be taking you through personal hygiene in the kitchen. Welcome. We need to understand that all food handlers are a potential source of contamination from food poisoning bacteria and other hazards. And so it is very important that they are aware of the importance of high standards of appearance and personal hygiene. Now, the reasons for this are as follows. Now, this normally reflects the professionalism of the individual as well as the establishment they work for. And this in turn gives a positive impression of the food business in totality. I know some might say that this is obvious, but we have to state it nevertheless, that all food handlers need to ensure that they have a daily bath or shower. They should wear clean clothes every day and use a suitable deodorant. So let's now talk about protective clothing. Now, protective clothing includes chef's jackets, the trousers, the aprons, the neck scarves, and the capes. Now, protective clothing is normally worn to protect food from contamination by food handlers and to protect the wearer from potential hazards such as excessive heat, burns, and sharp objects. Kitchen clothing must be clean and changed at least once a day, and more frequently if it becomes soiled, to avoid contamination of surfaces of food, the surfaces on which the chef is working, and even the equipment. So how should our hair be? Now, hair can be a source of food poisoning bacteria. And before I proceed, maybe I would want to mention a few bacteria that are normally very common in the kitchen. So they include the staphylococcus, the bacillus, the clostridium, and the salmonella species. And so I'm saying that hair can be a source of food poisoning bacteria, the bacteria that I've just mentioned, and contamination from this source must be avoided. Now, hair falling into food can be a physical hazard, but I know we also know that there are chemical and biological hazards as well. Now, hair must be washed regularly. Long hair tied back and kept covered with a suitable kitchen hat or net to prevent loose hair from falling into food. We should also note that the hair should never be scratched, combed, or touched in the kitchen, as bacteria and loose hair could be transferred to the food preparation equipment. So let's talk about jewelry, rings, and watches. And this category also includes bangles and necklaces. Now, the wearing of jewelry is not acceptable when handling food. Why? Jewelry can trap particles of food and provide a warm, damp environment for bacteria to grow, which can then be transferred to food being prepared. It is also noteworthy that jewelry or parts of jewelry can fall into food, as some food preparation involves plunging hands into water. How about our fingernails? Now, this should always be kept clean and short, as that can easily lodge under the nails and be transferred to food, introducing harmful bacteria. Nails must be kept neatly trimmed and the nail varnish must never be worn in food areas. Let's now talk about hand washing. Now, hands are frequently in contact with the food and numerous other items. If they are not kept clean, we know they can very easily transfer harmful bacteria to food, to surfaces, and even to equipment. So to avoid contamination from hands, they must be washed thoroughly and frequently, particularly after using the toilet, before commencing work, during the handling of food, and especially between different tasks and after dealing with wastes. Finally, I would want us to talk about unsafe behavior in the kitchen. Now, there are some of those things that we need to avoid anytime we are in the kitchen for hygiene reasons, and they include chewing gum. And this is because when one chews gum, they are likely to spit into the food. And just like I mentioned earlier, our saliva normally contains some bacteria, some of the bacteria which I mentioned earlier, and these could easily be transferred into food. We also know that our mouths are a source of bacteria, uh, and so this should be avoided. Now, the second unsafe behavior, which which happens regularly in the kitchen, is eating in the kitchen. So this should be avoided. And just like I've stated, saliva can aid in the transfer of some bacteria into the food. And we understand that when one is eating, they are likely to, again, they open their mouth and they are likely to spit as well. And even food coming from the person's mouth might get into the food, thereby contaminating it. Now, the third unsafe behavior that we also need to avoid is smoking. So this should never happen in the kitchen. Again, our mouths are sources of bacteria, and the cigarette ends and even the dust, the dust that comes from the cigarette is likely to get into the food. And at the end of the day, if this happens, this is likely to contaminate the food. Thank you very much. I hope we learned something on personal hygiene, and we are going to practice the same so that we produce safe food to our guests. Till next time, bye bye.